Welcome to DFS Karma, where we talk about our favorite fantasy sports plays for football, basketball, baseball, and pretty much everything else. Be sure to check out and create an account with all of our partners, such as MonkeyKnifeFight.online, PrizePicks.online, and StatHero.online. Use the promo code KARMA on any of these sites to get an exclusive deposit bonus. And don't forget to check out all of our free fantasy content on DFSKarma.com, as well as our own premium plays. Without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Please welcome today's hosts.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Week 5 edition of the Game Theory Thursday podcast. I'm your host, Ben Hustler. I'm joined by Matt this week, a.k.a. Mig the Tig. This is the most scuffed podcast we've ever done. My computer's on like 30% of an update, so I'm on my phone. Matt is in his office. I felt super bad that he drove all the way to his office to do this to do this podcast, and then my computer was having issues. So you're not able to see my beautiful face this week. You just have to look at Matt and some picture of some guy that apparently Travis and Matt know, but I don't know who he is. We're gonna go usual format here. We're gonna talk about the best games of the week, and then we'll get into some positional cash game and tournament plays. Be sure to check out all of our free content at dfscover.com, and you can look at the packages as well. Weekly package, obviously only $15 if you want to try us out for a week. I'm going for 5-0 this week on FanDuel. Matt, I don't know how your week was. Obviously, you're on the cash process, so I don't know how your weekend was last week. But we've had a really good football season thus far, and I feel like I've been pretty unlucky. So I'm excited for this week and just moving forward. The first game, I don't have the Vegas odds pulled up, Matt, so you're going to have to assist me since I'm running this on my phone. But the first game we're going to talk about is the Ravens and Bengals. So you were kind of talking about this in Discord, and I've kind of come on to this ever since you mentioned it. So I know you're really on this game, so I'll let you start here. We did get this random news. Lamar missed practice yesterday and today, but they seem like 100% he's going to play, which would be really good because I am super interested in this game as well.
Cool. Yeah, so I can't even see the picture. I know who it is, but I'm laughing just picturing it. Just picturing it's going to be the best. But yeah, so this is a 51-point total, but it's a massive home favorite in Baltimore with a 12-point as of recently a 12-point favorite at home. But with that, you're getting Baltimore with a 31.5-point team total. Obviously, an enormous team total, second highest of the week behind only KC and tied with Dallas right now. But yeah, so from what I've heard, Lamar's certainly going to play. I think they're just giving him a little bit of veteran. He's only in his third year. A little bit of kind of treatment to just relax. You know, he had a bit of a stomach bug and kind of a knee. But you know, I jokingly talked in Discord about kind of pulling a martingale strategy on this, which is the famous strategy of like betting them black, and if it doesn't hit, bet it again, and if it doesn't hit, keep on doubling your bet until it hits. And you know, with Lamar Jackson, you have just total explosive upside, and we have not really seen that this year. You know, we've seen some plus games on the ground. We saw a 50-yard rushing touchdown a week ago, and you know, 2 weeks ago, just nothing through the air against KC. So kind of some weird ups and downs, but you know, obviously nothing has changed really with Lamar Jackson. There's so much upside with him, and I just want to be there for it. Obviously this matchup is like premier. Cincy is bottom 3 tackling grade. Actually, they're I think dead last tackling grade, which leads to a lot of big plays. And at home, you know, last year the issue with Lamar and these big home favorites or big favorites in general was that he sat a lot. You know, he had a game where he didn't even play the fourth quarter last year. He had multiple games where he was out for more than half of the fourth quarter. And John Harbaugh came into it this year with kind of a renewed sense of strategy and saying that he doesn't want to do that this year. He said you look around at all the best teams, all the best quarterbacks, and they don't do that. He pulled out some stats, you know, for like Belichick and Brady when they had, you know, big blowout wins, and you know, Tom's out there. And for whatever reason, you know, I don't know, obviously Tom Brady's a different type of player than Lamar Jackson. Lamar carries a little bit more injury risk with how he plays. But we've seen it this year. I mean, they're not pulling him early. I think there's an immense upside on the ground, and I'm going to be pairing him with Marquise Brown. I'm not so sure I'm going to do it in cash. I mean, I know I was kind of being a little hyperbolic when I mentioned that I might even do it in cash, but I just think that that hookup's going to happen soon. He's top 5 in the league for average depth of target, that being Marquise Brown. There's big play potential there. He's not catching, very many of them. Unfortunately, they've been a little out of sync this year. There's some funny videos on Twitter just showing them like a lot of just mishaps between the two of them. But I really, really want to be on Lamar and Hollywood this week. I got some more stats, but I want to flip it back to you, Ben, because I know you've been really high on Burrow. You've been sharp on that side, watching Cincy this year. Is there any merit on the other side? And do you have any other opinions on Baltimore? I know Andrews was beat up as well and didn't practice today.
Yeah, so basically what you said, like, I'll just echo it. Like, this is such a good spot for the Ravens. Lamar crushed this team twice last year. And obviously they run a very similar defensive concept to what they did last year. They're a really man-heavy team, which is extremely good, obviously, for running quarterbacks, which we talk about all the time. So we should be able to see some upside with Lamar's legs here as long as he is healthy, which it seems like he is. So I think it's a really good spot for him. But this Ravens defense hasn't been quite as dominant as they have been in years past. Like, Dwayne Haskins did not play bad against them last week, right? He threw for over 300 yards. He wasn't overly inefficient. Like, he played pretty well against them. So I think Burrow definitely can have a good game here. So I think that how I would play this is, you nailed the Hollywood Brown take, obviously. It feels like he's been really unlucky. He got down to the 1 last week, which, I like to go to those guys the week after that happens. And when was the last time he scored? Like, doesn't it feel like it feels like he never scores touchdowns? Like, you're completely right in thinking that the big game is eventually going to come. And we've seen these perimeter guys just crush Cincy this year. I know Odell and Baker finally got on the same page against them on that Thursday night game. So I think that's a good spot for him. But I would just run it back with Tyler Boyd. I like to take slot receivers against the Ravens. Tyler Boyd's clearly emerged as Burrow's favorite target. Tons of targets the last few weeks. And that's another guy that got unlucky. Got that touchdown called back for offensive pass interference last week. So I don't think you could go there and cash on DraftKings. So that'll probably be my main tournament team as of now. But FanDuel, where the salary's looser, you could probably play Lamar if you wanted to in cash on FanDuel, just because the pricing is so much looser. I'm
planning on it, and keep in mind, like, the type of player that Lamar Jackson is a very efficient passer. I mean, he was absurd. I mean, the king of efficiency is, of course, Russ Wilson, and Lamar was like destroying his efficiency last year. And so obviously there's a little regression there. But remember, I mean, Hollywood Brown scored 6 touchdowns in his first 9 NFL games that he played in. And it's been rough, in the last 8 or 9 games since then. So I just think that, he hasn't scored yet this year. And there's absolutely touchdown regression coming his way. Still getting peppered with targets, being on a run heavy team. He had 8 targets last week. I just can't say it enough. I just think that at home, a game like this, I just think they want to get out big, and it could be one of those gross, like 41-17 type games. So that's what I'm hoping for, at least.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you have anything else on this game? I think we covered it pretty well, but this, honestly, like, throughout the week, I've come more on this game. And then when you were talking about Discord, I was like, like really got me more interested than I was. But we'll move to the next game. We're only going to talk about 4 games this week. I think the KC game is going to play, so we can touch on that maybe at the end if you want. But it would be easier if we were doing this tomorrow. Like, if they had no positive tests in the morning tomorrow, that would be big. But it does seem like the line hasn't been taken off for that game, so I think they're going to play. But we're only going to talk about 4. So the next one we're going to talk about is the Jaguars and Texans. This is another spot that Anthony and I were talking about a lot in the cash process. You have a little bit of the narrative with Watson in his first game without Bill O'Brien. I don't know. Did you see this report that JJ Watt led like a revolt against Bill O'Brien?
Yeah, they said he kind of lost the locker room after just completely going like crazy specifically on JJ Watt, which you just don't do, man. That's an all-world player and kind of the captain of the team. And they said 2 weeks ago, ever since that happened, he kind of just lost the team. So the coaching regime, you kind of like you said, it's a narrative that you want to kind of get on talented players to kind of let them loose. But I just don't know if it's going to be that terribly different. I mean, Tim Kelly is going to be doing the play calling. He was doing the play calling weeks 1, 2, and 3. Bill O'Brien took over in week 4 as kind of a last-ditch effort, then got fired after it. So it's kind of going right back to Tim Kelly on the play calling. Romeo Crennel, of course, is going to be the interim head coach who's been there almost as long as Bill O'Brien has, I believe. So it's not like a crazy, drastic, like fresh blood and just let him, go crazy. But the game itself is so good. So I know you said you didn't have the Vegas lines. I'll kind of lay that out really quick, then I'll flip it back to you to go first on this game. But I do got quite a bit to cover on it too. But yeah, I mean, this is sneakily like the second or third highest total over under of the week. I mean, who would have thought Houston and Jacksonville is 54 over under? Unbelievable. But yeah, so opened at a 52.5 and it popped up to 54 now, and Houston's a 5.5 point favorite. So Houston's in a spot with a 30 point. I mean, there's so many teams with 30-point team totals last week, this week. I think with the minimal off season, no preseason, it's just been catching defenses off guard. I mean, these are just crazy high scoring games, and this is the type of a story of two bad teams, but with just a lot of upside. I mean, both of these teams rank in the bottom 3 for PFF's tackling score, which again leads to big plays, which has been happening. And so there's a lot of fireworks potential for this game, but I think it's going to be tricky as far as the spot. So what are you looking at specifically in this game, Ben?
Yeah, I agree that we probably won't see anything crazy from the Texans offensively, but I think that like Watson just didn't look very motivated to me in that last game. I know they came on in the second half, but that first half, like he looked bad. And I was kind of worried, like a little bit, because I did play him in cash on FanDuel, so I was a little bit worried. But I think he might just be a little more energized and ready to go. The Jaguars allow one of the highest completion rates to opposing quarterbacks. I know they were around 80% last week, which is why I was on Burrow so much. I think that it sets up for a good spot for Watson to be more efficient than he has this season. Fuller kind of took back over last week. He was behind Cooks in air yards heading into last week, but he kind of took back over with that dud from Cooks. I think Cooks is playable just because people will 100% not play him. He was like 40% on DraftKings, got 0. No one will play him, but Fuller's my guy. I know you like him as well. Really good spot for both of them. So I like that stack. Laviska Shenault, I think, is my favorite play in this game. Really good matchup against Vernon Hargreaves and a very beatable secondary, which you kind of highlighted. They can't tackle, which that sets up well for someone like Shenault, who they like to get the ball kind of close to the line of scrimmage and let him run. He's really good after the catch. So I think it's a really good matchup for him. And then David Johnson, I think also, I've seen some traction on him in cash games. I don't think I could go there, but I do think obviously we've targeted the Jaguars on the ground. We saw Mixon finally got off, finally had that big game that we've been waiting for the whole season last week. So I do think David Johnson's in play, but I don't know. Mainly, I like the Texan stack, and I really like Shenault on the other side. I think Shenault is playable in all formats, even just as a one-off.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think that one of the sneaky things here is that Jacksonville's actually been quite good on the outside to outside receivers. They bottled up nearly everyone, but DJ Hayden was really good too in the slot, and he's on the IR now as of this week. And Fuller is not a slot guy per se, but over 25% of his snaps this year have been in the slot. And last year he did it, quite a bit more when D-Hop was there. So I don't know. I don't know that I trust them to get creative and put him in there because, we've seen Cook struggle. Stills is uninspiring. If they were smart, it's one of those things like if they were smart, who am I saying that? But if they were smart, they'd probably plug Fuller in 11 personnel into the slot and really take advantage of the backup that's going to be covering the slot now that DJ Hayden is out. And DJ Hayden was pretty good. So I do like that spot. I like Fuller, but Jacksonville's terrible. They're giving up a 77% completion percentage to opposing passers, 8.4 yards per attempt, just, gaudy numbers. And while I like Shenault, I agree. I love his price, and he's going to get a couple carries as well. He's got that kind of multi-tool dimension. I like James Robinson, man. I really like him, and I think that the way this slate's breaking out, I think that you're going to see more David Johnson than you're going to see James Robinson because he's a road dog, not the home favorite. you're going to see other people in that price range, like Kareem Hunt get some run, and of course Mike Davis. But like Houston's horrible, right? Dalvin Cook had 2 tutties, and he should have had a third, but he had so many carries on that drive, and Madison got a touchdown there, which was tilting because I was so heavy on Cook last week. Still lost. That's why I'm wearing the cash shirt, by the way. We got a cash this week. If you remember last year.
I was gonna comment on that shirt, man. I'm liking that. I was wondering what the story behind that was.
It's Johnny Cash. I mean, it's a Johnny Cash shirt, but we got a cash, dude. You know, I had a couple bad weeks in a row, and I pulled the shirt out last year, and we both crushed. So, like, you know, got to make it happen. So Houston is dead last in passing plays as a percentage of the opposing offense and for yards as well, which means that they're first in the league for giving up the most rushing percentage of plays and rushing yards as a percentage of total yards given up. They're a run funnel. I mean, and not in the classical sense because they have such a great secondary or pass rush. I mean, that's okay. Obviously, J.J. Watt there and some decent pieces. But Houston teams want to run against them. James Robinson is the only game in town. I mean, there's 6 carries in the red zone this year, and 5 of them are from James Robinson. Chenault's the other one. But this is a spot that I think that you're going to want to be on James Robinson. He's game script proof. He's active in the passing game like we've seen all year. Teams want to run against Houston, and he's good. I think he's good. I don't know if were you high on him coming out of college, Ben?
Yeah, so he kind of got some buzz like in like the Devy community last season. He ended up going undrafted, but I don't think he's bad.
Okay.
I mean, he looks good. I mean, he looks good like watching him for sure.
I didn't even know he was a UDFA. I thought he got drafted.
Yeah, I'm about 99.9% sure.
I believe
he
it
was
undrafted.
undrafted. Yeah,
you're the draft guy here on staff, but yeah. I don't know, man. He's looked good, you know, and Houston is such a good matchup, and he gets him in the dome, and I don't know, man. I just really think it's a sneaky James Robinson spot, regardless of which way the game's going. I really like that spot. Oh, we didn't even talk about our boy Shark. Is that criminal?
Yeah, man. So
He's so
Shark,
good.
I know he's so good. He delivered for us last week. Predictably, what was low owned. I definitely think you can go back to him. I just think I don't know. I'm really on Chenault this week, so I'm probably gonna play him. Like I wouldn't play them together. I think you would have to pick one of them. But I think the point that you made on Robinson is really interesting. Where would you rank him, like in that tier? Because you have like Clyde is under. Like if that game plays, you have him under 7K. You have Mike Davis under 7K. Like where would you rank him among those guys?
Yeah, so this is one of those different things where, like, if I'm like ranking via like the classical sense or whatever, yeah, I'm playing CEH all day over him for $100 more on DraftKings. He's a good bit cheaper on FanDuel, and obviously, you know, Mike Davis is in kind of a nut spot, you know, at 6.4, so 300 less. So probably no one's going to play him. I think in cash, like, yeah, you're playing Mike Davis, CEH, and if you can squeak in Zeke. That's kind of the 3 that I want to roll with. I know we talked about Kareem Hunt. He's kind of getting some talk. I just think that game is. I agree with AC's take. It's such a slow pace. They both just want to run that ball and kind of do that. But no, I think that I had a particular build on DK where I could fit him and I did it. So I don't know. I mean, like, what? Yeah, Mike Davis is such a good spot too. I don't know. He's in a couple of my builds. I'm gonna force him in on GPPs. I know this is more of a GPP, you know, game theory podcast. But from a pure ranking standpoint, I would still rank CEH and Davis above him. But I'm certainly ranking Robinson above Hunt, which I don't know if that's like a hot take. It probably is. But I'd take James Robinson over Hunt all day in this spot.
Yeah, that's the point I was getting to. So I think you're definitely Robinson over Hunt. I would listen to the argument. Like you did a pretty good job selling him. And yeah, I mean, the more I thought about it, like both the Colts and the Browns want to run the ball. So it is going to be slow paced. The Colts do have a really good defense. But both Robinson and Hunt have, potential in the passing game. I think that's an interesting, like 1v1 right there. Like I would listen to Robinson over Hunt for sure. I think that's really interesting. But
I'm doing.
Do you have anything else?
Entirely. No,
you're not playing any Hunt. You have 0 Hunt.
As of right now, remember a couple weeks ago, I went to far fewer lineups. I'm trimming down to like 3 or 4 per site. I was just doing too much before that. So just because I have such conviction on Robinson over Hunt in this spot, I'm happy to just roll with it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Yeah.
All right. No, that's interesting. I honestly don't mind it. I mean, I only played 2 or 3 anyway, so I definitely understand that. But do you have anything else in this game?
No, I think we covered it.
All right. The next one we're going to talk about is this is probably the most popular game of the week. It's the Panthers and the Falcons. A lot of plays here for cash games, which we just alluded to with Mike Davis, but a lot of good tournament plays as well. I know the over-under for this is what? Let me guess. It's probably 50, 53, 54 would be my guess.
Yeah, it's 53.5, so right between that. Yep.
Okay,
Moved
yeah.
up too.
So I mean,
open up at 51.
The Falcons.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Falcons are so banged up on defense. I don't know how the Panthers. I like the Panthers. I think they moved. What are they? What's the line now? Because I think it moved a couple points towards Carolina.
Yeah, so it did. Atlanta opened up 3.5 point favorites. They're now 1.5 point favorites. So it's getting closer and close to a pick 'em. Obviously, there's some news with Julio. I don't think Julio plays this week. So the narrative on Julio is he always plays hurt, and he's fine. But last week it was looking iffy. We're short weeking it now, and he got pulled in that game, and he doesn't look good. And hamstrings take a while, man. I think it'd be stupid to run him out there now, and just potentially re-aggravate hamstring. It would be brutal. So I think Julio sits.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I told Anthony that in the cash process, like re-aggravating an injury on Sunday night and then you got to play again the next week. It just doesn't sound like he's going to play to me. So I would grab Carolina before that moves to a pick 'em. I would assume that it'll keep moving, but I like Carolina in this game. I don't see how they don't put up points against this defense. Like this defense is so banged up. I think Bridgewater is a great play on both sides. FanDuel, Anthony kind of made this point, which I think is interesting. People always spend up for quarterback on FanDuel because it's so easy to.
Mm-hmm.
So taking someone like a Bridgewater, or people that played Fitzpatrick last week on FanDuel, like he's going to be low owned because he's that low 7K range, and people spend up. So I like Bridgewater on both sides. Mike Davis, like you said, I liked on the cash process, but now that we got this news that Bonifun's on the IR, he actually played a decent amount last week, like more than he had been. So him going on IR, they have literally nobody else. So it's going to go back to Davis just dominating the snaps and the work, and one of the best matchups in the NFL. And Davis actually looks really good, and he has upside in the passing game. So great play there. It looks like the chalk is going to be Robbie Anderson, which I'm fine with. I think Robbie Anderson is a good cash play. Atlanta gives up they're bottom 5 in yards after the catch allowed, and obviously Anderson's really good after the catch, so it's a great matchup for him. Him and Bridgewater clearly have a rapport, but Bales I know really likes DJ Moore in tournaments, and I'm completely fine with that. Like, I mean, I'm a big DJ Moore fan. He's another guy that's good after the catch, so I think if everyone's playing Anderson, you can pivot in tournaments. But the Panthers stack is just one of the best on the slate. For the Falcons side, if Julio's out, you want to play Ridley. I know he had a 0 last game, but I'm not putting much stock into that against this Panthers defense. What do you make of the cheaper Falcons receivers? Because I've seen Zacchaeus get some love. I don't really expect him to get 8 or 9 targets again. Kind of a weird spot because he is 3K, so some people are going to want to play him.
Yeah, I mean, I had him in my provisional cash on DK, and I don't want to play that. That's such a spot where you can get a 0, like we've seen recently, like
For sure.
Boy from New Orleans. You know what? I'm glad I can't remember his name. I don't want to remember his name. He gave me a disgusting 0. Whatever, Troutman. Yeah, that guy. But that's so in the range of outcomes of this receiver that just gets sprung into action, and they have a lot of they got Hayden Hurst, they got Ridley, who no one's surprised if they just pepper Ridley with 16 targets. No one is surprised if they do that. And Russell Gage has been in that offense, and he knows it. So that could be such a route to 0. Last week was unique in that Julio was out and really got shut down by an elite corner. So I just I don't love it. If my cash builds, I'm not playing him in GPPs. I just don't think you can point to enough ceiling. Yeah, the price is cheap, but I just think in cash, if you have a build that you really, really want, you really love, fine, you can just punt off a position like that. But a couple things I would mention. The back end of this Atlanta defense is like done. They put DeMonte Casey starting safety on the IR. They have Keanu Neal missing practice. Well, not missing, he's limited, but it's a hamstring, man. It's one of those things. When Keanu Neal does not play on this team, it's like brutal. Like it's the craziest splits. If you remember last year, he's kind of the captain of the defense, and when he's out, it's not good. A lot of people are banged up coming off a short week, like we already mentioned, so it doesn't really look too good. Then they also put a corner on IR. I can't remember. I thought they lost someone else too, but obviously it's not a good defense. We get a dome game. They're on a short week. I think that Robbie Anderson, he the archetype of player that he was under horrific, Adam Gase, was just a streaker and it wasn't working. But now that he left that dumpster fire, he's just like clicking. And with a new quarterback, new offense, he's clicking big time with Bridgewater. And I don't think we need to keep forcing the DJ Moore thing, man. Like DJ Moore is like the DFS darling on like every site. Oh, DJ Moore. And yeah, I see it. I mean, he's a very skilled route runner. He's got good hands. But like sometimes you got to just stop fighting what's right in front of your face. And what's in front of our face is that like Robbie Anderson is tall and fast and a good receiver. And he's way out there as far as, red zone targets versus he's 5-1 on red zone targets versus DJ Moore. Number one on the team in red zone targets is Mike Davis. They love to pass to the running back, and they're facing a team which is giving up the most passes to running backs, in Atlanta. So second most rather in Atlanta. So, to me, I think that you don't have to get too cute. You can play Robbie Anderson and Mike Davis. I don't think that's going to be rare to do that. I think that's going to be quite popular. But yeah, I mean, Carolina targets the running backs the most in the league in the red zone, and that's one of the weak spots of this Atlanta Falcons defense. So I think we're able to find a nice spot in Atlanta that's beat up in multiple spots, their defense and offense, on a short week. And the parts that Carolina is playing with is just syncing up with the weaknesses on Atlanta. So I really am liking Robbie Anderson and Mike Davis.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. I assume you have no interest in Gurley.
I mean, dude, he's not catching the ball, right? So
Right.
You can't play DraftKings DFS with a running back that has no hope of getting a catch. I mean, could it change this week, with a Julio being out? Maybe, but they're just not doing it. I mean, he's like one catch or less every game. And yeah, he's fallen into the end zone a couple times, and a lot of them are from like 2 or 3 yards out. But I just don't think that you want to count on that. I mean, yes, Carolina, it's a wonderful matchup. I mean, Carolina is horrible on the ground. You want to attack them with the running game. Man, I don't know. Maybe we should be, right? Big total, home, slight favorites. I guess we should. I mean, that's the AC call of the week, right? Is that Gurley's going to get 2 touchdowns. That's just like standard for him. But I won't. I mean, are you going to play him at all? I think you're muted, Ben.
No, I literally brought this up for Anthony. Wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I literally brought this up for Anthony. I said this before last season. I will probably never play Todd Gurley ever again, and I'm not playing him this week. So I just, it's just like I feel like people will want to play him because they watched him score touchdowns in prime time.
Yeah.
Like
True.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not playing any Gurley. But what I was going to ask you is, so what do you think about forcing Ridley onto your main team? Because the last time Julio was out on the main slate, it was like that quote unquote tough matchup with the Bears,
Yeah.
and Ridley was low owned, and they were making a point to get him the ball early. He got tackled at like the 1 early in the game. He caught a couple long ones in the first half, and one of them he got down at the 1. So I think that like, I'm not sure, like, if projection systems will pop him out. I really haven't checked anything this week. I haven't even really looked at Sam stuff. But, I feel like if we don't play Ridley, that could be something that, like, when 3 o'clock comes on Sunday, you're going to be sitting there and you're like, why did I not play Ridley when I'm already going to have potentially 3 Carolina players in my cash line? Like, why would I not force myself to get Ridley on the other side?
That's a great point. I mean, you're right. Gosh, most projections as far as ownership have him top 4, top 5 in ownership.
Okay.
15+%. So I don't think it's going to be a sneaky play at all. I think that in general, the sharp people tend to overthink things, whereas most people say, "Oh wow, he's like the number 1 receiver in fantasy. Julio's out. Carolina sucks. Let's play Ridley." But why not? It's a good matchup. It's a 28-point home total. Um, you know, and remember, like Carolina got quite a bit easier as far as the secondary. Who did they lose? God damn, who they just lose? The decent corner that they had last couple of years, a bigger body guy. Is gonna kill me. I know they kept Dante Jackson.
Yeah, so they had James Bradbury, but he's gone.
Bradbury. Yeah,
and then they basically replaced him with Eli Apple, which is hilarious.
I think he's out though. I think Eli Apple is hurt. I don't think he's playing. I can check.
Yeah,
I know
he came.
He
might have come back, but I'm just saying. Yeah, just in general, I'm saying like from a team building perspective, like they replaced him with Eli Apple, which is so funny.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, they're running out Rasul Douglas, and that's not what you want against a guy like Calvin Ridley. I mean, Dante Jackson's good. He's more that short, super quick twitch guy, whereas Calvin Ridley is just kind of a slick operator out there out wide. And you know what? I mean, I don't know if you have to force it in cash just because he is expensive, and by most cash builds that I'm seeing, especially on DK, it's kind of hard to get to him. You'd almost be deciding between Ridley and Zeke. And if we're going to talk about that game, I think that Zeke's going to be tough to avoid. So in cash, it's going to be really hard to get there. But you know what? If you're running a 3-team type of strategy, you can't zero out Ridley. You have to have some Ridley. He could absolutely explode.
Yep, I agree. So that's a good segue over to the last game we're going to talk about, which is the Cowboys and Giants. I'll let you start here. I did have someone in the YouTube comments on the cash process tell me that Zeke is not a lock. So you can give me your take on that. And you can also give me your take on if you think the Giants are going to be able to put up enough points. I know Dallas has this historically bad defense, but I still have no confidence in Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett and everything that the Giants have going on over there.
You don't love this Jason Garrett revenge game coming back to Jerry World?
Yeah, I mean, if it was like anyone else, I could sell myself, but
he's so bad. Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones could have 40 DraftKings points this week, and he could have 4 DraftKings points. It's crazy. Yeah. Like the ceiling and floor combo is hilarious.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that it's a nasty combination with this Dallas defense. You have the team that's losing their minds as far as pace on offense and percentage of plays being passes, combined with a really bad defense losing their Pro Bowler middle linebacker Leighton Vander Esch a couple weeks ago, kind of captain the defense, middle of the field, and they just fallen apart. And they're playing so fast, which is elevating the other team's plays. And they're just so brutal on the outside. Losing Byron Jones on the outside, it's really, really rough. And I understand that you're worried about the Giants. I mean, they have 1 touchdown in their last 28 drives. That's brutal. I mean, they're literally just punting and ending drives. But it's tough. I mean, you got a team with the new system with the terrible coach too, Jason Garrett, and then they lose a centerpiece of their offense in Saquon Barkley. And I just think that they weren't prepared for that to happen. They're bringing guys like Devontae Freeman off the street, and they're just kind of in flux right now. Could this be a get right spot? Yeah, I think that on play volume alone, it certainly could be a get right spot if possible for the Giants. But the good thing is, like, they have some redeeming qualities to them. I mean, I think overall Danny Jones is not horrible. I think he has a fair amount of talent. I think that you have one of the top 5 most athletically gifted tight ends in the league in Evan Ingram. They're getting brutalized over the middle after they lost Pro Bowler Leighton Vander Esch, like I mentioned, and tight ends are really beating them up, and tight ends got him for the most catches in the league last year. The Dallas gave up the most catch tight ends in the league. So I think that and that's one of their strong points. That Evan Ingram, I think that Slayton can certainly beat him up on the perimeter. They're giving up a ton of deep passes. So the elements are there if they're smart about it and they just let Danny throw it. I think they're going to have elevated play volume. I think that, Slayton, especially for his price at 4.8, is going to be hard to get away from for me in lineups in which I feature Zeke and or believe it or not, I want, you know what, you probably never, well, now that I'm saying you won't be able to guess it, you probably will be able to guess it, but my favorite play other than Zeke actually is Dalton Schultz. Which I laughed about him a couple weeks ago on this pod. I'm like, I'm not playing some guy named Dalton Schultz. I was just like I'm not playing him, which is so stupid. But he's just taking over that role that what's the name, Jarrett, Blake Jarwin. Obviously Blake Jarwin. Down. Yeah, Blake Jarwin was gonna have a big year, and they're scheming a lot of plays for him, and then they kind of just let Dalton Schultz slide right into that, and he's been good, man. My case for Dalton, I want you to talk about Zeke a little bit. We can go back and forth on that. I do think he is close to a lock. I think I will say he's a lock. But if I were to tell you, that Dalton Schultz is the leading target getter inside the red zone for the Dallas Cowboys, you'd probably be a little surprised. But it's true. And, and again, he kind of got thrusted into the game in week one after unexpectedly, losing Jarwin. So I think that Dalton Schultz, while not exciting, from a physical, gift standpoint, I do like him a fair amount. I think that the risk we have in this game is that Giants suck, like we mentioned, and they may not have to go. They might just go crazy anyways and just throw it and just lose their minds like they've been doing. But if that target volume drops, a lot of these kind of ancillary plays are not going to be as sexy as they were. I mean, Dak Prescott dropped back 61 times last week. Okay. If all of a sudden it comes, down to 35 dropbacks, these guys that were getting 8-9 targets start getting 5 or 6. And I don't know. All of a sudden, your Gallups and Lambs and Coopers are not as enticing. The other thing that is positive though, with Tyron Smith coming back, Dak was only hit twice. He only got hit twice on those 61 dropbacks last week against a pretty elite defensive line in Cleveland. So I am bullish still on this Dallas team, but I think that if you go with this theme of Dallas passing game wins the millionaire maker every week and just go Dak and pick a couple of pass catchers because you'll throw for 500 yards again, I think you're probably mistaken. I'm going the kind of more conservative route. Most of my teams, I'm going with Zeke and Dalton Schultz. I think that those tight end targets are still going to be there. He leads the team in red zone targets, and I'll probably, if I do bring it back, I'll bring it back with Slayton or maybe Ingram, although that'd be a double tight end. So yeah, probably Slayton. What do you think about Zeke in particular in this spot and the rest of the plays I didn't mention?
Yeah, I think Slayton in particular is interesting. He kind of got some traction in that first game that Shepard missed, but we know that he has a really strong connection with Daniel Jones. So I think if I was going to take someone in tournaments and their pass attack, it would probably be him. I think Ingram will probably end up pretty chalky. You highlighted how they kind of funnel catches to tight ends, and this does feel like kind of like the breakout game for Ingram. Yeah. So I think that's a really good play. But yeah, Zeke is just so safe, man. He should never be under, 85 on DraftKings, and he's at 78, and he hasn't really been having bad games. He had as bad of a game as you could have in that last week. He lost a fumble. They were down 30 plus points. And he still had 21.5 DraftKings points. And that was with he scored a touchdown and they didn't call it. And then
that was so bad.
Yeah. So he had 21.5 DraftKings points with getting a phantom touchdown, not count. Right. And he's basically he's seeing career high usage in the passing game. He got 8 targets in that last game. You would assume he's not going to get, 8 targets in a game that they're probably going to be winning. But right. you're getting a 4 to 5K receiver and a running back in the same player with how they're using Zeke. So I just think as long as he's under 8K, I don't even care what the matchup is. I'm going to play him. This happens to be a good matchup. So I'm cool being overweight to him in all formats. I'm fine game stacking this in tournaments, but I kind of agree with you. It's kind of just the recency bias if everyone's going to want to play this because of what Dallas has been doing the first few weeks. Do you think you'll play any Daniel Jones lineups at all?
Nah, nope. No. Look, again, one touchdown in their last 28 drives. There's so much, as far as like range of outcomes. There's so many where he throws for like 200 yards and one touchdown. And it's not. I don't think you can. I mean, this offense, I wouldn't. I'm happy to grab some pieces. Like I mentioned, the two obvious ones. I think you're right about Ingram probably being pretty chalky and Slayton with the upside. But I just think that you don't need to do it with Danny Dimes too, man. I don't know. I'm all set, I think, on that. I think you muted, Ben.
Yeah,
I
I
knew
don't
that.
play enough teams, I think, to get to him.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't play enough teams. Yeah, I'm there. I don't play enough teams to get to him, but I think
Yeah.
some people might. But I think Slayton, you nailed that. I think that's a good tournament play.
Yeah.
We probably need to mention Cooper. Like Cooper's just so
Yeah,
good.
he's safe.
I think he's the wide receiver one right now in PPR scoring for receivers. I think he's a good play. But like you would take Ridley over Cooper with Julio every time. I think.
Yeah, I would, and like, dude, Cooper's projected to be the number one owned receiver. I mean, I'm looking at two different sites for projected ownership. I'm seeing him number one, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, like, and I'm a big Amari Cooper fan, dude. Like, great route runner. He's in the 10-inch hand club, which is a big thing for me. Obviously the play volume's been there, but if the play volume drops, like it certainly could, I think you could be dead in the water. I mean, just have one of those like save games. You could have one of those like 6 for 60, and you just hoping you get a tutty. But like tutties are so spread out in that offense, man. It literally, I mean, Dak can run it in. Of course, he did it 3 times one week. Zeke can obviously run it in. You got 4 legitimate pass catchers for touchdowns. So I'm not wow. So there you go. Let's say he's the number one receiver of the week. Are you playing him in cash? Are you playing him in tournaments? I don't think I am.
No, like if we're looking, like say it's 105 on Sunday, and I see that he's the highest owned, I would want 0 of him. I think.
Okay, yeah, which is kind of proving my point. I just think you talk about range of outcomes. I just think that he's the best receiver on a high volume offense. But in this game, I mean, with how horrific the Giants have been, man, you could get in trouble. Paying 7.4, we're going to get to him. But man, you can get Tyreek Hill as a home favorite at 6.9. I think I like that a lot more.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, we'll move to the positional plays, which we can kind of hit on the KC game in these, obviously, because there's a lot of plays here. We'll start with cash game plays for quarterback. For me, I mean, I kind of like what you said about Lamar. I think you can get to Lamar on FanDuel, but it's probably Bridgewater for me on DraftKings. And then if you wanted to play Watson, you can, but Bridgewater's price is just so good.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just keep coming back to Bridgewater and DK Cash, and I'm trying to force in Lamar on FanDuel, where it's just so much easier. I think Dak's going to get a lot of ownership, and again, we've been talking about I don't see the point. That's for cash. As far as the GPP side for QB, I don't know if it's gross, but like I'm looking at some Minshew, on that run back. I know I talked so much about James Robinson and wanting the running game and the percentage of plays being the run, but Minshew's got some really talented pass catchers that I want to mix him in. I'm going to build some Patrick Mahomes lineups. I think that when you can get Tyreek Hill at 6.9 and CEH at also a fair price, I think it'd be a disservice to not have a KC stack against a really, really bad defense. I mean, dude, Vegas is 30th DVOA versus the run and 30th DVOA versus the pass. Mahomes has a 33-point team total. Yeah, I mean, if he puts up 35 points, I mean, there's going to be a lot of fantasy production there. So I like that a lot. He's going to be probably my number one tournament quarterback.
Yeah, you completely nailed it. With no Josh Allen, I'm kind of lost in this tournament section at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would just pivot to Mahomes. I think he's a really good play in tournaments, and with Dak and other guys up there, he's never. I mean, ownership's always spread on a quarterback, but I don't really see that being a place a ton of people go. So I do think that's a good call. Running back, I think for cash, like I don't see how I don't play Zeke, Mike Davis, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think they're all mispriced. and it's just too easy to get them all. So I think for tournaments is the more interesting conversation. I know you kind of hit on Robinson. Do you have anybody else you like there?
Isn't that amazing? Like, how horrible of a price is CEH? 6.8
Yeah, it's
as
egregious.
a 33-point home total team, team total favorite against a horrible defense. Like, that's just like inexcusable. And he's the workhorse, getting 20 plus touches a week. It's like, good Lord. I don't know how they came up with 6.8 on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, but GPP, man, like I said, James Robinson, I'm super, super high on him. Hope I don't get burned. I'm looking at my screen. Yeah, I mean, I would probably no, man, it's gross. But like, do we look at David Johnson in that same game? I mean, do we dare? That's kind of a nasty take, but
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like Anthony. I know for sure is like all over David Johnson.
he's
So I don't
always
hate
on
that.
team old guy. Like, he's literally.
I know. I know. I don't know. I don't know
like
what
dusty,
is
but
the
you're
matter
not sure
with
if he's quite dusty yet. You're like, well,
him.
like that's like Ace. He's like on it, but then he prints. He'll literally print six figures, like playing these old dust guys, and we're all like, okay, I guess. I mean, what are you gonna say? Like, it works. Like,
I know it's horrible. The one guy I want to bring up before we move to receiver is if I don't know if Mostert's playing or not. If he were to happen to miss, like Jerick McKinnon would be such a good play. Over 90% of the snaps, which I think was the highest of the week for any running back last week.
yeah,
We know he has obviously the physical traits, and he's in obviously a prolific offense that is, that zone scheme is so nice running the ball, and they throw to him in the passing game too. So we need to wait on some injury news there, but I would definitely be interested in some McKinnon.
yeah, for sure.
Receiver, I'll let you start here. I don't know who you're looking at in cash outside of like Robbie, which I think is the obvious one.
Yeah, Robbie. I was footing with some, Zacchaeus, just trying to see what that could build out. For cash, it got me a couple pieces that I didn't think I could get. I was looking at AJ Brown, but they obviously moved that game back now with Tennessee moved. I'm high on Will Fuller again this week. I'm seeing that he's not going to be quite high as owned as I think he probably should be. I want to say the Jags lost a pass rusher too. I'd have to pull their injury report. I was looking at some pressure numbers, and I do think that Watson's going to have a fair amount of time to let some routes develop. So I do want Will Fuller, more and more. I think that we're running danger of Watson losing trust in Brandon Cooks. I mean, he just looked horrible out there, man. I don't know. I just think that Fuller can just continue to take that offense over, and he's not projected for that much ownership. I mentioned it briefly, but I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to be owned nearly as much as he should. If you're looking at some systems showing half the ownership of Amari, I think that's a huge mistake. I mean, this guy has a touchdown in every single game. He has a really, really good matchup against Las Vegas. And oh my God, if you can get Tyreek at like somewhat lower ownership at his lowest price all year, maybe his lowest price in a really long time, I don't see how you don't play Tyreek there. What do you think about? So remember, a couple of weeks ago, like Deontay Johnson was the thing, and then had a postponed game. He was hurt for a little bit, but should we be looking at that spot against Philly? I think we would.
Yeah, I like that spot a lot for Deontay. I think that's a good call. Like, I like Fuller a lot, but DK Fuller 66, Tyreek 69. Like, I would play Tyreek over Fuller, I think, every time.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the rest of my lineup looks like, I would just play Tyreek. So I like that. I do think Deontay's in play. So he's right there with the San Fran guys, which I wanted to ask you about. I know I mentioned McKinnon, but Miami, bad defense. San Fran, 30-point team total, which I feel like no one's talking about. Like, they're going to have to, put up points somewhere. Obviously, Debo came back, so that kind of hurts it. I don't know, like it's not like one of them is out, so you can play Ayuk or Debo. And then you still have Kittle there, who had a monster game on Sunday night. So do you like any of the San Fran guys?
I'm gonna kind of now wave that, man. No, I'm all set. That team doesn't want to pass. They've had a carousel of quarterback with injuries, and when they do decide, they just chuck it to Kittle 17, 18 times, and I don't know. I just think they want to run the ball. I think Miami's terrible coming across country, and I just don't think you can bake in enough volume. You can't bake in enough volume, period, with that team. But in this spot, I think it's even less. And and there's a lot of questions. It's all spread out. I'm not touching it.
All right, fair enough. And then you have Chenault at 4,500, who I really like as well.
Yeah, great
tight
call.
end. So would that put you on Kittle at tight end? Obviously not for cash, but just
Yeah.
generally speaking.
Yes, especially if Mark Andrews is not going to play, and I got to really keep all my Lamar teams to just him in Hollywood, I'm going to be looking at Kittle. I just said the passing is bad there, but like that's kind of the, I think he's going to get his no matter what. Kelsey, maybe. I mean, that's going to be kind of a decision. I mean, they're right there at 6.4 and 6.6, and that's going to be tough. And they're both almost 2K more than Evan Ingram, who might very well be chalk. I have a gross take, and I don't know if you're going to agree. So Akins went down, right? And he may not play. Like, can we actually play Fells? Like, can we just, punt it off and pay 3.4 and hope we don't get a 0? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think, Fells is like a decent red zone target. He's got some skills. And we know, I already talked at length about being really, really high in Dalton Schultz. He'd probably be my highest of the own of the week. And I don't think he's going to be that chalky. But, dumpster diving down there. I mean, can we play Fells, or that's just too gross? Probably too gross.
If he was cheaper, I would listen anyway. But it feels like 3.4 is like too much.
That's fair.
Like that's not that cheap.
If I'm like I said, I'm gonna be having KC stacks. I don't know how I don't run back with Waller, if I'm not, or even dual tight end with Kelsey. But I think Waller's in one of those spots where like KC's not really equipped to stop tight end in a big way, and Waller has this 15 target upside. I think they can just throw it into him most of the game.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. Like, I think that my two main tournaments will probably be Lamar, Hollywood, Tyler Boyd, and then Mahomes, Tyreek, and Waller. I think that's a great call. 5,900. If you wanted to play two tight ends, I wouldn't even mind it, because if you're playing someone like Waller or Kelsey or Kittle, like that's not even like playing a tight end, right? Like you're basically playing a receiver.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Isn't it amazing how like in most years, you finally get Goddard to go down to injury, and you got this legendary hookup, with Ertz and Wentz, and it's like no one wants that now, right? Like no one's touching Zach Ertz $200 less than Waller, but like historically that would be like the biggest smash play of the week.
For sure. Even in week one, Ertz was chalk on FanDuel in week one.
Oh, I know. Yeah, but Wentz is just so dust this year. I mean, I've been hearing a little bit. Let's see. I know Jonnu obviously got moved. That's not what I was looking at. There's one other play. Oh, yeah. Like two. I really more like two. So Hayden Hurst, obviously, if Julio's out, that should be mentioned. He's getting deep shots through 3 weeks more than any other tight end in the league. So I don't mind that. And then I don't mind. I hate saying it, but Eric Ebron, man, like, he finally hooked up with Ben for a touchdown. Last time they played feels like forever ago. But I don't hate Ebron getting the red zone looks that he's getting against Philly team that, historically Philly for the last few years was so dominant against tight end. You had like Philly, Buffalo, and New Orleans. They're just studs against tight end. And they've been horrible against tight end this year, and they're just giving it up left and right. I mean, is Ebron a direction you're going to look at?
Yeah, I think Ebron could pick up some traction throughout the week. Just, people talking and how the group think goes. I don't think I could play him over Ingram in cash, but I don't mind Ebron in tournaments at 4K. I think that's completely fine.
Okay. We've never talked this much about tight end, so let's move the hell on for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that pretty much does it. Cover the games, cover the positions. You can give me a bold call for week 5.
It's so not exciting, but I think we could see a 2-tutty game from my new boy Dalton Schultz. I think we can see a 2-tutty game from him.
Normally Bales is the one that always gives me tight end takes. I can't believe that this is happening.
Well, I mean, I still got the page up. We're just talking about it. But I am relatively high on him this week. Obviously, my biggest conviction play this week is certainly Lamar and Hollywood Brown, though.
All right, for my bold call, I'll go with Chenault scores 1 through the air, 1 on the ground.
Love it.
And yeah, thank you guys for watching. This is the weirdest podcast I've ever done. I'm actually sitting.
The Willem Dafoe podcast.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here with my phone. This is disturbing. This is so weird to me. But thank you guys for watching. Like I said, be sure to check out all the free content at dfskarma.com. And us later, Bales and I will have the perfect pivot on Friday. We'll have that out actually from my computer. And then I'll be back on the Sunday morning live stream at 11 a.m. So thank you guys and good luck this week.